Crude oil. What kind of fuel is crude oil? It is a fossil fuel, and it is what plastic is made from. It is inexpensive and easy to use and lasts forever. Plastic, that is. Fossils will eventually be used up, but not before polluting the world. Once used, very few plastics can be used again. Plastic waste enters our water and has contributed to global climate change by causing the oceans to warm up. How do we create plastic? We are now going to discuss virgin plastic created from natural raw materials rather than recycled plant. Plastics are derived from natural organic materials such as cellulose, coal, natural gas, salt, and crude oil. And this slide focuses on crude oil and simplifies the process for brief explanation. First of all, extraction of oil. Extraction can be challenging. Deep below the ocean floor, ice or desert, 1 in 10 barrels of oil are used to manufacture plastic. The average oil well is 900 feet deeper than the Grand Canyon. The world's deepest well, Sakhalin 1 in Russia, reaches an incredible 40,604 feet. That's 7.7 miles or 15 times the height of the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Secondly, the crude oil needs to be processed before it can be used. First of all, the oil is heated at the bottom of a column, which causes it to vaporize. The vapors rise and separate into different molecules of different weights, and the heaviest molecules remain at the bottom. At various heights, there are different collecting trays to give a variety of end products. Finally, it is cleared up to reduce the amount of corrosive or pollutants. Then we get to the polymerization changes of hydrocarbon molecules, monomers, so that they all link together in a chain, usually by applying a catalyst, a bit like a bicycle chain that is made up of lots of links. When thousands of monomers are linked together, this is called polymerization, and the compounds formed are called polymers, the plastic that is common name for polymers. As an example, this drawing here shows how the polymers connect to make plastic. Nurdles are small plastic pellets that can be transported to factories around the world. Bottom left-hand corner of the slide shows a picture of what nurdles look like. Factories then melt and mold these pellets into their product. Single-use plastics have gone through this whole process and can be used for just minutes. We use many natural resources, time, water, and fossils in making that one item. For example, a plastic straw, a water bottle, or plastic cutlery are made for these. The delivery of plastics created is huge. The diversity of plastics is created huge. Plastics are categorized to show their main ingredients. These symbols are included on packaging and assist with the sorting and recycling of waste. There are many, and these can be confusing. Not many people are aware of these categories and don't care and treat all plastics the same. The issue is that not all plastic can be recycled or reused and end up in landfill or in the oceans. Let me just give you an example here. Plastic bottles, these items here, are commonly used, but most of these, if not recycled, do go into the ocean. Plastic containers for detergents and shampoos, things that are used daily, are fairly common, but often don't get recycled and get thrown into the waste bin. Let's stop now and have some discussion. We'll stop the presentation now so to have a group discussion about the things you use daily. Things that could end up in landfill or in the ocean, for instance, plastic toothbrushes, cling film, etc. Plastic toothbrushes we use without even thinking about it. But what happens when you finish that toothbrush becomes old and you throw it away? It goes in the bin. It goes into a landfill and eventually finds its way into the ocean. In this group session, we want you to make a list of the items that you know of and see what alternatives you can think of to replace them. For example, plastic toothbrushes can be replaced with bamboo toothbrushes. So let's take 5 or 10 minutes to do that. Stop the slide now and continue afterwards with the presentation. So, how does plastic end up in the ocean? There are a number of ways that plastic can end up in the ocean. 2/3 of it comes straight from the land-based sources. Litter being left on the beach or washed down rivers and drains from litter being dropped in towns and cities. It comes from industry spills, badly damaged landfill sites, and bins near the coast or by being flushed down the loo. The majority of these items are single-use plastics such as drink bottles, plastic bags, cotton bud sticks, sanitary items and wet wipes. The remainder is lost at sea, such as containers going overboard or lost fishing gear. Only 1% of marine litter floats, with the vast majority sinking to the sea floor. Some people question, why isn't marine litter just collected? Even if we try to scoop up that 1% in international waters, who would pay for it? To further complicate matters, the majority of it is microscopic. There is no way, because even if miraculously we manage to get all of these pieces, most smaller than a grain of rice, out of the sea, what would we do with them? All we can do is to stop using more. How does the plastic end up in the ocean? Noodles, known as mermaid's tears, are what plastic factories produce and then distribute to the factories that mold that plastic. A huge number of noodles are seen on beaches all over the world. Some from accidents where shipping containers have been washed overboard, some from poor waste management from industry. In 1997, Lego, almost 5 million pieces of Lego were washed overboard. Regular sightings occur in Cornwall and around the UK. Some pieces have been found on American and Australian coastlines. In 1992, a container ship departing from Hong Kong was hit by a storm in the North Pacific Ocean. 12 containers were washed overboard. One of these containers held 28,000 yellow bath ducks. These ones in the middle. At some point, this container opened and the contents were released. Although each toy inside was plastic, it was backed into cardboard, which quickly broke apart and released the ducks. Unlike many bath toys, these ducks did not have holes in them, so they did not take on water. 10 months after the incident, the first ducks were washed up along the Alaskan coast. They have also been found on other American shorelines, Canada, Iceland, Greenland, and are still floating around today. These aren't the only incidents of plastic items being washed overboard sunken ships. In 1990, 61,000 Nike running shoes were lost overboard. These one-off incidents are extreme and make news headlines, but the extent of the problem of everyday single-use plastic polluting marine environment is of serious concern. Let's look at the damage to the environment. Plastic pollution can be seen in different areas of the oceans. Large items of plastic floating on the surface. Most plastic is lighter than water, so it floats. Suspended in water and easily mistaken for jellyfish. On the seabed, plastic can sink depending on the density and if they have any holes for water to get in or contain any liquid. Fish, birds, and organisms peck at it, and the sunlight breaks it down. It can break up into smaller pieces, or bottles can open up and allow water in. Microplastics are suspended in the water and easily ingested by animals. Some people call areas of high plastic pollution plastic soup, as it is thick with small fragments of plastic in the water. And very often, a lot of the fish that we eat today have eaten plastic, and that stays in their system, and when we eat the fish, we obviously are then consuming plastic, and plastic is going into our bodies. Why is plastic considered to be a problem? Plastic is considered to have made the modern world possible. Many things we take for granted depend on it. Just think about many of the life-changing plastics that you couldn't imagine living with. For example, medical gives gloves to prevent spread of infection and surgery equipment, food storage and protection to preserve and improve shelf life, water pipes, false limbs, wires and cables, telephones, TV sets. All plastic that has ever been made is still around somewhere. It is now either plastic products after recycling, rubbish or landfill, or plastic pollution. The problem is bigger because of our throwaway culture and our reliance on single-use plastic. The problem, however, is that all of the plastic that has been created since 1907 is still around, and this is a big problem. David Attenborough has been known to quote, "There is no such thing as a way because plastic is so permanent and so indestructible that when you cast it into the ocean, it does not go away. It stays in the ocean forever." These images are of animals that have been caught in plastic or consumed plastic at some time. The birds and fish don't know that plastic is bad for them, so they eat what they find floating in the water. This is bad, as it fills their stomach with plastic that has no food value and does not digest, and they will eventually die of starvation or are strangled to death. So what can you do to help reduce plastic? First of all, you may not have seen some of these items that appear in sequence. We're talking about rethinking plastic, but first of all, let's start with refuse. We could perhaps refuse to buy plastic, first of all. That would be the first thing to do, is refuse to use the amount of plastic that we buy. Reduce the amount of plastic that we use. We cannot cut all the plastic out of our lives, but we can reduce it. We can repair plastic items rather than dispose of them and replace them. Give them a longer life by repairing them. We can reuse plastic rather than throw it away. Plastic wrapping, for instance, reuse it many times. It lasts forever, so keep using it. And of course, we can recycle items, those that are recycled. The essential thing is that we need to rethink what we do with plastic. The reason Twyford rethinks its plastic trip, we're trying to encourage people to rethink what they do with plastic, and all of these elements that we've covered here do actually help with the reduction of plastic. So what can you do? You can tell your parents and tell others about it. Do whatever you can. Every little bit helps. So the more people we get involved with the reduction and less use of plastic will help us achieve the objective. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you are successful in reducing plastic usage.